Donald and Jean Morley were teenage sweethearts, together for 76 years, married for 69. But one night, the love story turned into a true crime story, and now Donald's become the oldest Australian convicted of murder.
Their story started when Jean and Donald were 16. Donald has always called Jean my darling. They married at 23, moving to Australia to start a life together.
We used to have dinner parties. So my neighbour there and this neighbour and this neighbour.
The Morleys lived the Canberra dream, happily married with an immaculate home in the suburbs. Judy Jones was their neighbour in Fisher for more than 40 years.
They were devoted to each other. I mean, they had their snappy moments, but they were devoted to each other.
It's a sad end to a
Yes,
long love story.
It's a terrible end to a story that started in Yorkshire and came out here.
A story that took a tragic turn in July last year.
The female was located yesterday afternoon and police were called, subsequently attended.
Jean was found dead in the couple's bed. The couple lived in this Canberra home for decades. On the day after the murder, a health worker arrived here to treat Donald for his skin cancer and change some of his dressings. When the nurse asked after Jean, Donald broke down, saying, "I've done a terrible thing." 92-year-old Donald was charged with his wife's murder. He admitted to police he had suffocated her and then tried to take his own life. Donald had written a note, which the court heard, read, "Please don't call this murder-suicide. After 69 years married, we were both afraid of the future. Sorry to upset all the family plus friends. This wasn't easy for me or my darling." Is there anything you'd like to say on behalf of Donald? Donald Morley's lawyer, John White SC, told the court it was a mercy killing and that Donald was Jean's full-time carer after she was diagnosed with dementia. He was responsible for all domestic chores and never left Jean on her own. Facing his own terminal cancer diagnosis and dementia, his lawyers said he struggled with the uncertain future that faced his wife and himself. Donald telling healthcare workers the couple had lived too long. The prosecution said this was a serious example of domestic violence. Jean was in apparent good health for her advanced age. Morley pleaded guilty. Today in sentencing at the ACT Supreme Court, the judge told him murder remains murder, labelling it a family violence offence and that the victim was particularly vulnerable who did not ask to be killed, saying the crime was a gross breach of trust by her own husband as she lay in bed. Morley was imprisoned for 9 years. The now 93-year-old is too sick for jail. He's currently being held here at a hospice where it's likely he'll serve his time and is expected to die from his illness in a matter of months. The court heard his punishment is effectively a life sentence. Donald tried to say something towards the end there. Do you know how he's feeling today? Do you think he deserves to go to jail?
No.
There is a feeling of shock on their old street. What do you think?
I think it's only a mercy killing as far as I'm concerned, I would say. He's done it out of compassion, not hate.
It might sit uncomfortably with you that a sick old man was jailed for 9 years. You may not consider what he did domestic violence, but as the judge himself said, murder remains murder.